Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Unlimited Show where we interview incredible people. I'm here tonight with Adam. We're from LightNet, and we're bringing on Philip Giannattasio, who we met in the spoon bending lab. And what I really love about Philip, beyond his incredible artwork and what he stands for in the world, is the fact that he's an incredible example of applying this science that we're studying so intently at LightNet. So it's one thing to read it in a book, it's one thing to see it on YouTube. But Philip, what I loved about you was that you actually took that YouTube video and you tried it yourself. And that is where you start knowing things on a whole different level. And that's where you can start showing up in the world as someone that is really unstoppable and inspiring. So I want to thank you for your courage. I want to thank you for getting off the couch. And I want to congratulate you for having your artwork on Times Square this month. Absolutely incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah. So remember, you guys, I always say this, but it's not about bending the spoon. It's about creating what you were here to create. And everybody listening today, you guys are creators, and we are in the midst of a renaissance. And we are in the midst of the Jedi Revolution, right? All of these abilities are coming online, and we've kind of locked them out of our minds, but not anymore. So we are the leaders in this Jedi Revolution, in this galactic revolution, in this human potential revolution. And it starts with actually doing the practices, bending the spoon, doing the Kundalini, because once you do, your life changes, as Philip will talk about. So, Philip, I want to go back to the beginning with you and talk a little bit about what spiked your interest about all of this interesting research and how you initially got into it uh, and got trying this stuff.
So thank you again for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm so happy to see everyone here. So this all began with the Kundalini, and then that ultimately led into the spoon bending. So should I just start with the Kundalini or start with the spoon bending?
I think it's great to start with the Kundalini, because that was really something that literally floored you and opened you up. And I know a lot of people have said that their first like awakening moment where they realized they were not in Kansas anymore, the reality is much more complex and beautiful and interesting than they had thought. And often it comes with awakening this energy, with having the energy go through your body and lighting up everything. So let's start there. Like, what happened?
So I had moved to New Hampshire for a career advancement in nuclear medicine, and I had been out of the field for some time, and I know that I needed to do something to focus. So that's where my journey began with meditation as a whole. So I had absolutely no spiritual knowledge whatsoever. So literally everything was new for me. So I read about Kundalini and some of the benefits, and I went on YouTube and I watched a video on it. I laid down in my bed, I did a guided meditation on it, and the next day, my entire life was turned upside down. Um, my all of my five senses just started peaking. I had to wear sunglasses even in the dead of winter. I remember being at the gas station one day and somebody in front of me handing the clerk a lottery ticket to scan in, and the chime of the bell nearly doubled me over in pain. This sound was just deafening. And all of these anomalies started happening. I woke up at exactly 3:33 in the morning. And after 2 or 3 days or a week or so, it's a profound coincidence. After 9 weeks in a row, it's absolutely terrifying. Now, again, I had absolutely no spiritual knowledge whatsoever. So all of these coincidences just started happening again and again. And I found myself going through this process. Then I was just seemingly magnetically drawn to the clouds and the sky. Um, I'll do a short story into that, and then I'll lead into the spoon bending. So what I was seeing in the clouds, I knew had to do with the Kundalini. because I'd never felt anything like Kundalini before. So I woke up the Kundalini every single day. I imagined the cerebrospinal fluid going up the chakras. And once that energy hits the pineal gland, that's when everything activates. So the first thing I would notice that would happen is my tongue would stick to the roof of my mouth, like that. And then all of the energy hit the pineal gland. And that's where that feeling came from of the way I describe this is there's really no other way I can think to describe it as like a full body orgasm multiplied by 1,000. And your body is just vibrating in this state. And it's the most incredible thing I've ever felt in my life. Every muscle in your entire body is completely locked and just complete euphoria. You can move, but you won't want to. And I would stay in that for probably 15 or 20 minutes. And then again, that went into the clouds. I started doing the artwork, and then I started seeing videos on TikTok about spoon bending and YouTube. And I knew with everything that was going on around me that nothing was impossible. And there was documents to back this up. So I gave it a try, and I was able to do it. And when it is actually happening, it's almost like winning the lottery because just because the spoon doesn't have a blood source, it's not a living thing, it still has an energetic signature to it, and you can manipulate that. But when you're actually in the process of doing that, it is the most remarkable thing. I've I've only get the spoon to a certain point. You can bend it completely all the way, but the excitement just kind of takes me over. And after a while, I break the field and then it stops. But where you bend it, it's hot to the touch. So I'll go briefly over that whole process. So the way that I went about this is I picked up the spoon. First and foremost, you have to have the belief that you can absolutely do this, that this is a very real thing. If you don't have the belief, it's not going to work because that's going to be in your subconscious. So I would pick up the spoon, I would pick a focal spot where I wanted the energy to go. And I would imagine atoms spinning around the spoon as fast as I possibly could imagine. And then you have to put the spoon down and completely break any thought of the spoon whatsoever. Sometimes I'll pick up a book or I'll just try to think about something else or call someone, whatever you have to do, but the thought has to be completely away from the spoon. During that time, that is the restructuring process. So the first time that I did this, I didn't wait as long. And in truth, I never really do. There's some people that can just pick it up and bend it like a sheet of paper. I end up not being able to wait. I get too excited because I already know it's going to happen. I can feel my heart like racing and it starts to bend. And that's when I get a little bit of adrenaline. My hands are shaking while I'm doing this because it's even talking about it, it's so unbelievable. So when you're doing something like this, it's unbelievable. But it does happen. And I've done it again and again and again. So you really do have to have the belief.
Yeah, that is so incredible. All these things. Let's unpack things a little bit more. And let's go back to the Kundalini awakening and also like what was happening, like waking up at 333. I mean, that is so interesting. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know if you've ever woken up at 333. I think it's a thing, and it's interesting because the world is kind of silent at that time. So what did you do? Did you just go right back to sleep, or were you, like you said, it started to freak you out after it happened so many months in a row, but were you getting downloads? Were you getting like what was happening when you would wake up?
So when I woke up at 3:33, I would just go right into the Kundalini. I didn't really know what else to do except meditate because I know that I needed to be focused. My job is very detail oriented. So I wanted to make sure that I was putting my best foot forward. Um, everything spiritual that was happening in my life, I really didn't know what else to do. So I would go into the Kundalini. And somebody just told me that I had to trust the process. Whatever was happening, I just had to go with it. So with the Kundalini, I would imagine the serpents at the base of the spine, and then just like the symbol of the catechist, going up the spine, going through the chakras. And I felt like an air bubble when it's going up the vertebrae. And then all the way up, I read that you're supposed to do it 3.5 times, but the number three just sounded more solid to me. You're supposed to make it go out through the crown chakra, but I imagined it going intertwining around my brain and then going back down the spine. And at the third time is when, like I said before, the tongue is just magnetized to the roof of my mouth. And then you're just flooded with all of the energy and everything that's happening.
That's so interesting. So, did you have a Kundalini instructor? You said something about a book. How did you come to the awareness of how to do this thing you did when you woke up?
I was researching meditation online. Meditation was very, very new to me. It was actually before I had left Connecticut. I was talking to somebody about, it was a therapist actually. And somebody told me, why don't you just, if you need to focus, just go to therapy. I'm like, I don't really want to sit there for 45 minutes and just talk about everything and then have somebody ask me how that makes me feel. So this guy was different. He was the one that actually got me into meditation, and I carried that with me when I moved. And I just did more and more research. I don't remember exactly what website I was on or where I came about Kundalini, but it was basically just an online search. And then I delve into it. I read about expanding my consciousness, and I was on board with all of that. And I still remember this part. There was a big warning label across the middle of the screen, and I didn't pay any attention to that. I just read the benefits, and I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm in. Let's do this. And I really had, I don't know what would have happened if I had read that warning label, because I don't know how you can actually prepare someone for something like this, because everything that I was experiencing was like something you would see in a movie. Um, like with waking up at 3:33 in the morning, it's not something that like you won't feel like you're losing your mind or something, but it's the universe is grabbing your attention in real time to an extent where you know that this something is going on and you have to figure this out. So I was kind of baptized by fire, if you will, with all of this.
Right. We begin to hear Morpheus whispering in our
Yeah.
ear. Right? I mean, it's undeniable. It becomes undeniable. It sounds like it really had a profound effect on where you went from there. So the spoon bending was intriguing and enjoyable. Can you begin to talk about what that led to?
The spoon bending was just something that I've done along the way throughout my journey. The majority of my focus has been with my artwork. Um, I've dedicated the last 6 years of my life to that. As soon as I had that magnetic draw to the sky, that's the best way that I can describe it. There was nothing that anybody could tell me. Most people would just say, Phil, that's just pareidolia. Your mind's making that up. It's a genetic trait that's been passed down since we were cavemen. Your mind is just trained to see, like a predator coming when we were sitting in trees and things like this. And I remember showing a friend a picture, and he was the one that said this to me. And I said, you can't see that. And he's like, Phil, those are just clouds. And that was when I knew that I had to do something with this. And it took me about 6 months. I started off just posting pictures with circles around them, putting on Facebook, and people would just laugh and just say it's crazy and whatever. But I dedicated myself to this craft and trying to figure out exactly what this was. And 6 months later, I show him the same picture, and he goes, Jesus, you could see that? And I knew like this was my calling. So I've quite literally dedicated everything I have to this, and
It's,
documenting my journey on TikTok. That's been my biggest platform.
it's so funny because I clearly remember being in LA and I met this very kind of well-known artist. And she was conscious and she pulled me aside and she's like, "Yeah, I grew up in Europe and but my uncle raised me. And as a small girl, he would tell me that I needed to leave the house and walk into the woods and be there for all day." And she said that she would walk into the woods and, she had all this time because she wasn't coming back to her house, and she'd look up at the sky and she would make the clouds change. Like she would sculpt the clouds themselves. Um, so it's really cool that you are attracted to the clouds and that you can see things in the clouds. And I wonder if one day you'll literally sculpt them. There's a lot of people that change the weather, right? So this wouldn't be so far off. So have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought that it's your consciousness that's creating some of these messages that you're then photographing and putting out in your artwork?
I've been told that that's a part of it. I do get downloads from the artwork quite a bit. Um, and everybody has a different perception with this because in a lot of ways it's a mirror into the subconscious mind. I have seen a lot of people do exactly what you're talking about with the air bending. There's so many videos on TikTok of that's where I've seen basically everything on all of this. People do it with clouds, people do it with fire, they do it with, there's all different types of things. So yeah, that might be something I would be willing to explore someday. And to answer your question, I have heard that when I did the QHHT session, that was one thing that came through, was that sometimes this is a projection of something that I'm going through, or in terms of some of the ones that a lot of people say are creepy or they don't like, it represents a shadow aspect that needs to be addressed in their own life to be healed and transmuted.
Yeah, that's super beautiful. Let's look at your artwork. You have some behind you right now,
Yes.
and you are on Times Square right now.
Yes,
I see this.
yes. The 23rd, I was in Midtown for a day. Um,
Wow.
and I was in Times Square on the 25th, and now the 23rd through the 29th, I'm on that billboard right underneath, or on top of where Krispy Kreme is on 1619 Broadway. So I will show you some of my artwork. I'll start with the one that's there, actually. Let's do that. So I'm gonna have to turn this around. So this image right here took me about 6 months. So just to add to this, there's no Photoshop in any of my work. Some of my work has AI in it. So let me just balance this. So this was hanging on my wall for about 2 years before I even saw this. But right here is what I
I
was
see that
focused
right
on.
away.
Yeah.
See, it took me 2 years. This is just another reason why it resonates differently for everybody. And this is what I ended up with when I put it into AI. And that's currently what's being shown, or what was shown in Times Square and Broadway.
That's amazing.
And let's see. Now, another thing that I've never been able to pin down, uh, bishop's rings. I don't know why, but I won't even be looking at the sky and it'll be as if somebody's grabbing my face and pointing it up and I'll just see one. It happens about once a month, but here's a bishop's ring.
Mm,
Oh, wow.
Oh,
beautiful.
an interesting story with this one. I was pulling out of my apartment and driving down the road, and I literally felt this. I had to stop and pull over, and I took the picture, and that's what I saw. There's another one here. I'll show you the one that I was talking to my friend about, where he said those are clouds. There's nothing there, and this is the one that most people say is creepy, but when I get naysayers in the comments section, they're completely at a loss for words. So this is you could see the original and those four sections there. And then I split it in half, took the background out in the lower left quadrant there. And then up in the corner, you can see the number 55. And That is the final product. So I get things like this. I don't get to control what comes through. A vast majority of the comments are that's creepy or I don't like that one. And that's actually the best compliment anyone could ever pay me, because when I first started out, everyone was saying there's nothing there. Now they're saying they don't like it. So that's how I know that I'm doing my job.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that you found something that really lights you up. And I love that you spent 6 years nurturing your talent, and then now you're in New York Time. I mean, Times Square. It just shows that even impossible things like that, just being like, I'm doing this and not caring what other people think. And that's what separates, I think, people listening to this broadcast right now. That's why we have become leaders in consciousness, because consciousness has not been comfortable, and going after our dreams is not always logical, and it's not always supported, by our parents who want us to pay rent and all. You know what I mean? So congratulations for staying with that and diving into that and nurturing that, because in consciousness, if you stay with something, you cannot avoid creating that. Anything that you want to do, no matter how impossible it may sound, if you stick with it, you will create it eventually.
Absolutely. And I agree 100%. Never pay any attention to the naysayers. Not your vibe, not your tribe.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. You also uh lost more than 100 pounds in 1 year, and that took incredible mind focus as well, because you weren't naysaying to other people, but you were staying strong to the other part of your brain that's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not worth it. Just want to forget this. I want to set it. I don't want to do this. What happened with that, and how did that work out?
So I had yo-yo dieted over the years, but I got to a point where this was literally the worst year of my entire life. I got hurt lifting a patient. I was lifting them under their arms and someone was getting their legs. And during the twisting motion, I felt this twinge in my back. And 4 days later, I could barely walk. I had emergency surgery. And there were a lot of other things that were progressively just fell apart in my life. Just the worst things you can think of, heartbreak, job loss, all of the things. And I had the back surgery. And I remember when I got the MRI, the doctor said, I can't even believe you're standing there, because it's your lumbar is just, it's sticking out like this. And then a couple of days later, everything kicked in. I had surgery. And when I finished the surgery, he said, you can't move for at least 6 to 8 weeks. We had to remove a lot of bone just to get to where we needed to get to remove all of that. So I said, can I get my mail? He said, do you live on a hill? Yes, I do. Have your mother go get your mail. You cannot move. So with all of those things happening, I just got so depressed. All I did was eat. I mean, what are you going to do anyway? You're just sitting there all day. And after that, once I finally got well enough to start exercising again, the first day that I went out on my bicycle, there were some overgrown bushes, and there's handlebars on my bicycle that go up like this. And the overgrown bushes had grabbed onto my bicycle handle and ripped it away from me. So I landed on my helmet, and then the rest of the impact, my helmet bounced off the pavement. I hit my shoulder and I broke my clavicle in half, and then I had to have surgery again. So it was just one thing after the other. I got to a point where I was 335 pounds. I had gained weight in such a short amount of time. I think I had put on somewhere between 85 and 100 pounds in about 6 months. I mean, it was really dramatic. I got to a point where my stomach was so big, I had to roll in order to get out of bed. I could barely even move. I was completely depressed. It was the lowest stage of my entire life. And actually, When I fell off of my bicycle, there was a police officer behind me. He gets out of the car, asked me if I was okay. And I said, "Are you the guy that gave me a ticket about 45 minutes ago?" Like that was my day. It just the absolute worst year of my life. And I called a friend one day and I said, "I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to live like this. I'm going to lose 100 pounds in 12 months." You can't do that, Phil. That's unrealistic. The moment she said that, I knew that I was completely on my own. And I did everything I possibly could. I wrote a journal, I worked out, I stuck to a diet plan, and I actually had a friend reach out to me and he said, "You have to make sure that you document this because I know you'll do it, but nobody's going to believe you." So I took time-stamped photographs, front, back, left, and right. And I didn't actually lose 100 pounds in 12 months. I lost it in 7. And then I lost another 10 the next month. And now it's a total of 150. Um, and I remember I actually looked over the journal entries and I had written in 2016, you have to live like the version of yourself that already is the end product. And to anybody that wants to lose weight or is considering this or whatever, this only takes about 2 weeks for you to get into that mindset. When you're absolutely eating clean, you're going to feel better. That's when the energy shifts. And there is, God, I could talk about this for hours and hours. There is so much to this and there's so much to learn. Even in the process, if I gave you absolutely everything you needed to know from A to Z, there is a period of time where you need to work on incorporating all of the knowledge that you're going to get along the way. And you have to learn about your body because every body is different. If one person loses 200 pounds on the Atkins diet and another person loses 300 on the Mediterranean diet, it doesn't mean that the Mediterranean diet is better because what works for one person won't work for another. But what worked for me was getting so far outside of what I knew. I don't like saying comfort zones because I quite literally had to do things that I absolutely despised on a cellular level. And I think that is one of the things that makes dieting so difficult if you look at it in terms of manifestation, having to live and feel and be when your physical vessel reflects quite the opposite, still being in that. And the first couple of months when you're just getting your feet wet, and then you'll start to get a little bit of success and people will start saying things like, "Well, why can't you have just one?" Or "Why are you eating this?" And you move past all of those things and a couple months later people are asking you how you did it.
That's so incredible. That's amazing. I just want to say, so how far after your Kundalini did this all happen?
um This was very shortly after. The weight loss journey that I was just talking about was way before the Kundalini, but I had yo-yoed back and forth a little bit. And when I had moved here, I was still probably around 280 when I moved to New Hampshire, and now I'm 185.
I have this theory that because, well, in my experience, I had awakening with Reiki, and then I had the worst year after, like, I don't know, maybe a couple months passed. I had a nightmare life for a year. Like, I didn't
Wow.
even talk about it. So sometimes I feel that in consciousness, when you got way high, right? Your Kundalini was massive. So you went from normal to boom. And consciousness, I think sometimes takes you around to see if you can hold the at the top and bottom edges.
Yeah.
And it also kind of on your first awakening, it kind of guts you out because basically you're about to be handed a magic wand. And if you have all your sorrow and your pain and your hatred and your unhealed self with the magic wand, it's not so good. So
Well,
that dark night of the soul is where you're getting the opposite of the other one, but you're basically clearing that out so that you can stabilize. And so I don't know, it's interesting. I also want to mention to everyone listening today that obviously we know that the entire world is about to go into a dark night of soul and together, right? And since a lot of us watching this video today have already gone through something like that, right? And we know consciousness is important. We know mindset is everything, right? It's everything. It's great for us to be able to hold space for that. And one of the things that we just published today, our research for the Purpose Lab. And what we realized is that most people that found their purpose either went through a tragedy or an experience of awe, like your Kundalini. And sometimes it takes all the doors shutting at the same time. It takes an injury. It takes like all this stuff to really get you out and listening. You had weeks of listening because you were in bed. So I just want to let people know it's ourlightnet.org/purpose map. And that's where you can find the research that we just published. It's really incredible. And we're going to be walking people through this process of finding what lights you up, just like your artwork, starting in September. So you'll have information there. I want to go back to the whole Kundalini thing again. Is there a technique that you believe that is standard that many people teach, or do you feel like you partially like invented? Like, how is it? Is it a certain way that most people teach how to do it?
I
By
hear Dr.
what?
Joe Dispenza, the way that he talks about it, I resonate with the most. There is breath of fire meditation. There's Kundalini yoga. The way that Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches it is the way that I just resonated with it the most because I just wanted to be in a state of meditation. So it's taking a deep breath in through the nose, holding for 4 seconds, and then letting it out. So it's almost like I described before, it felt like an air bubble, and it's almost like you're pushing it up the spine. That's what resonated most for me, but there are those other methods.
So you were actually lying down.
The first time I was lying down, the other times I was sitting where I am right now.
Did you start seeing anything? So we know that there's crystals in the third eye, and we know that that Kundalini awakening actually activates those crystals, um, and allows you to experience extraordinary things. Did you start seeing things, or did you feel like your third eye was activated in any way?
Third eye was definitely activated. When I was talking about the trip to the gas station and hearing the chime of the bell with just that, what I noticed initially is all of the five senses peak while the clair senses are coming online. I had a lot of experiences. I'll touch on one briefly with my artwork. So before I had any evidence of the artwork taking off, I knew because of the Kundalini being the catalyst as to what I was seeing, perceiving in the clouds, that this was something massive. So I made a video the night that I launched my website on TikTok, and I had a visitor that evening. Before I went to bed, there was a brown spider on my wall. I got rid of the spider and I went to bed and I had a dream. And this was like an astral travel. It was beyond a dream. I knew I was in the dream. In the dream, I got up from bed. I walked to my kitchen. I opened up the freezer door. I pulled out a bag of frozen vegetables and I turned the vegetables over, and there were thousands of those brown spiders. And at that point, I'm freaking out. I go back into bed. I finally wake myself up. I sat up, I turn on my lamp, and I said, "Thank God it was just a dream." No sooner did those words leave my lips, 10 feet away from me is my dresser, and the fan on top of my dresser lifts up and it slams against the wall. And at that point, I'm absolutely terrified. My whole body is literally trembling. And again, this is at a time where I had very little spiritual knowledge, but I did have a friend who's a medium in the Netherlands, and I contacted him. I said, Mark, you got to help me out. I don't know what to do. I told him the whole story, and he said, I'll help you out. I'll get rid of him, but I'm not doing this again. Don't ask me to do this because it really siphons my energy. So he came back to me and he said, it was a lost soul. He wanted you to get a message to his family. And I said, I'm not tapped in like that. I don't do that. He's like, don't worry about it, but you have to shut that energy down, because they know that you can see them in the clouds and they're going to keep coming if you don't do that. So you have to be confident, because you have to remember you have the 3D reality. They don't, they want that. So be confident, but be respectful. And I had visitors for about 6 months, and it was very scary because I didn't know, again, I didn't know how to protect my energy. I didn't know any of the things. Um, in terms of perceiving other things, clairvoyance to a degree. I had some passed down relatives also come in. I got in my car one day and I could smell my grandfather's house, my grandparents' house, as soon as I got into my car. And I haven't smelled that smell since I was about 5 years old. So things like that. I would just know things. I would point. I called somebody. I just felt the need that I had to call her. We dated briefly, and I was like, "Hey, how are you? How's everything going?" And she's like, "Good. I started seeing somebody." And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're pregnant." She's like, Phil, I haven't even told my mother yet. I got it. I got my ultrasound at a hospital an hour away from where you work. So there's no way you could have known. Just things like that, just the clear sentience, the clear cognizance. It's sometimes I get clairvoyant downloads when I'm looking at clouds. I'm going to preface this by saying I am completely apolitical, but I have a picture pinned on my Facebook profile of when I said Trump will win 2024. Just from looking at a picture of the sun, I saw his face and I knew nobody would believe it. So I had to write out crystal clear, this is happening. I also have an audio recording of when I prophesied that my artwork would be in Times Square, and then that happened 4 months later. So it's just all different spectrums of things.
That is so cool. Adam has a question, but I just want to interject here that I am a firm believer that artists put their consciousness in their work, right? Because this is coming from you. I'm getting full body chills right now. So it's confirmation.
Awesome.
So this is your way of spreading this knowledge of these capabilities of this beautiful thing that we have, so having it in Times Square and having people go on your site and having people buy your artwork and having people see your artwork just on the internet is helping bring that consciousness to them in a soft and subtle way. So I'm so glad that you chose that to be your muse, your career, your life's work, because it will transmit that to them.
Thank you. And it's actually, I know I've said this before, you don't get to pick and choose how it comes through, but I posted a video recently of a friend and also customer. He sent me this picture. He's like, Phil, you got to look at this. My mother thinks I'm crazy. My friends don't believe me, but I'm telling you right now, that's my daughter in that cloud. And he's like, can you do something with this? I'm like, yeah, I'll take care of it. And so for context, he has two daughters. And I made the art for him. It's on his wall. And 2 weeks later, his other daughter comes home and says, why do you have a picture of Emily on the wall in that cloud? And I posted that, and I wasn't expecting the reaction from this. There are dozens of people, all unanimously with the same exact comment. When my son died, I saw his face in the cloud. Daughter, wife, and these aren't, it kind of looked like, or it sort of resembled. They're all absolutely certain. So it just resonates very differently. Another thing that a medium passed on to me, which has been 100% across the board, again, mirror into the subconscious mind. Anytime you see an animal within the artwork, look up not just my artwork, but in a cloud, that's 100% a message for you. Look up the animal spirit totem. And I have never had anyone, again, there's never been like, I don't know. It's always, that's exactly where I'm at right now in my life. It's definitive. So it's interesting how things resonate across consciousness.
And I think we're going to start, so mediums in South America are working with vapor. And the people that they're calling in, right? The medium, the person that's no longer in this reality, um, is actually imprinting their face in the water vapor that looks like them. So it's kind of cool that you've chosen clouds, because maybe as our mind wakes up and our consciousness wakes up, it's kind of blurry at first, but we're starting to realize that there's this whole other there's these whole other things that's not crystal clear to the eyes, but that is there,
Yeah.
so it's really cool. Adam had a question before we did the tangent here.
Yeah, really interesting stuff, and I really appreciate your openness and sharing. A lot of people are experiencing awakenings right now, and you touched upon something that I don't feel like I'm hearing enough about, and I hope that you can share about it. You touched on protecting your energy. As much as you're comfortable doing, could you go into what you do to protect yourself?
Uh, Black obsidian is a great crystal for that. In terms of the meditation, that is the most important thing. Whenever I'm teaching somebody how to meditate, either a white light, gold light, whatever resonates for you, whatever you will feel protected with, that is very, very important to start out first and foremost. I would imagine light coming from above, from below, completely surrounding me. And then most important, imagining light coming like roots out of your feet into the earth as deep and as wide as humanly possible. Because when you are meditating, you are crossing between that 3D realm and what's essentially on the other side. And sometimes you can bring something forward that isn't of the light. And I've had that happen in a number of ways. Also, if you're getting a download, ask yourself, are you for my highest good, or is this something else? And whatever you hear in your mind is the answer. Don't question it.
Right. Okay. And I appreciate that. And then you had also mentioned you kind of had a 6 month period. So were you progressively getting better at doing this, or did your technique change?
I still feel like I'm a novice. And even after all this time, there are so many different ways. I know people do offerings that cleanse their space with smudging. Smudging is a very big thing. I would do that once a month, use a turkey feather I know you're not supposed to use your hands to waft it, but go into the corners above and below. To be honest, there was a time where I just got tired of doing it and I stopped. I think in the beginning, when I really wasn't so aware of all of this, I was doing it more and more. But if you are doing that, you have to make absolutely certain that you're getting every corner, every crevice. I know there is a lot more to protecting your energy, but even out in your daily life, you can just imagine like a translucent bubble around you, like a protective layer, because intention is everything with this. Um, that's the biggest thing. I've also, I'm trying to think of what else there might be. If you feel like something's off, just go with that too. Your intuition is your gut is your guides.
Absolutely.
I was taught that too. Yeah, I like to create kind of a diamond shield and use light, and that just in its intention, right? It's you being firm with your boundaries. Mhm.
Yes, I actually I can highlight this with a story. I imagined the white light. I was around somebody that I didn't really get along with that well, and I had to be in this room with this person. I didn't have a choice, and I closed my eyes for a moment, and I imagined the white light around me, and then I imagined it coming in like a tidal wave, like shoom, And I opened my eyes and she actually pushed back like this. A shaman taught me another trick. You can imagine your power animal or your spirit totem completely surrounding you. She said, try this in the grocery store. It actually works. People will step away from you. I've done it when people are tailgating me. I'll imagine a giant horse like completely surrounding my car. They'll back off.
Yeah, cool, cool. So I have one more question, and then we're going to open it up to the members to ask anything that's on their mind. You're such an extraordinary person. I'm so glad that you're here. I want to invite everyone on YouTube to check out Philip's artwork at aromancyartworks.com. It's in the description. It's also in the comments right now. And so, yeah, so I also wanted to ask you again about this mind of yours that is so strong and beautiful. So when you went through the eating, the losing the weight and the whole thing, you talked about like train the mind and the body will follow. So talk about any advice you have for people, because things can feel like a marathon, especially if you guys are up to something big. It's sometimes it doesn't just fall in your lap. It's a persistence of vision that brings things forward. So what did you do to help yourself have such a strong character and be so persistent with your dreams?
You can think of it like management. So you have a financial budget. Not all budgets are financial. Some are caloric, some are energetic. And this is something that's going to take you time, but you have to reflect every day, every week. What did I do? What worked? What didn't work? You're going to come across cravings. It just going back, the food thing is the biggest for me that I resonate with because we all have to eat every single day. So I was undoing a lifetime of bad habits, but I had to stay consistent with this. You're going to have to fight the cravings and just sit with it. You have to feel it to get through it. And when you are giving absolutely 100%, I mean everything that you have, you will get to a point where you feel like you have to give up and you have absolutely nothing left. And I'm telling you right now, that is the day that somebody's going to come up to you and say, hey, you know what? I just wanted to let you know, you look great. You look like you lost a lot of weight and your fire is going to be ignited once again, and you will just keep going. So never ever stop, because you aren't just changing the craving. You're with every craving that you're making progressive changes to a permanently integrated new lifestyle. So there's more to it also in terms of the management. So what are my triggers? The biggest thing for me for the longest time was nighttime eating. And after all of the management that I've done with this, 85% of the time I wasn't hungry, I was bored, or there was an emotional need that was not being met in my life. So if I could have gone back and done this better, I would have told anybody, do the healing, not just going to therapy, not just sitting there. Because if you just go to therapy, you're still just having a conversation in the same identity. You're not actually healing anything. So there needs to be an integration of some type of somatic work to rid the body of that trauma. And then you can move forward even more authentically, because losing the weight was phenomenal, but I still had to kind of backlog on all of the healing of the trauma that came with that and unpack that. And even though I did it in a hurry, I shouldn't say in a hurry, but in a very quick amount of time, I wouldn't recommend doing that because it takes the mind time to catch up with what the body has done. I would walk by the mirror and do a double take. Like I didn't recognize myself. So please take your time and just enjoy the process, and don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah, it's something that I've been contemplating, like how to communicate, and you did a really nice job of it with people who are working on healing, is sitting with pain. Like instead of giving it a name, instead of giving it a reason, just experience it for what it is. and it passes. That's the incredible thing about it. It's so much like a craving. And I'm curious and researching right now about the connection to different brain chemistries. I think of it as a reactive stance to just brain chemistry that's trying to balance.
Yes, I love the way that you put that.
Yeah. Yeah. So sitting with the pain, thanks for sharing that. Just being able to sit with those things and just have that experience. Because,
Yes.
when we look at the possibility of having one day left, if it was a day of pain, I would still take it, right? And
Absolutely.
most of us would.
Mhm.
So pain is part of the experience, cravings are a part of the experience, and then healing's a part of the experience.
Yes. And that's part of the growth, feeling all of that. It isn't just a craving or a pain. That's uh you are transmuting all of that. So there's growth in that pain. So there's beauty in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm gonna open it up now to our incredible LightNet members who may have some questions for you.
Sure.
If you guys want to raise your hand, if you have a question, I'll pull you up onto the stage. Okay, cool. Lori has a question, so here we go. And Lori, can I just do a shout out a little bit here? So Lori is one of our longtime members, and she got to know Standing Bear, who was also on our program. And she and her daughters are doing this incredible Breaking the Cycles project. And it was really cool because you empowered your daughter. You said your daughter is kind of quiet and she didn't talk, and then all of a sudden she's leading a Teens for Teens call. So I wanted to put a tiny shout out. Sorry, I didn't tell you we're doing this, but
No,
you're here
that's
and
great.
I was like, oh my God, cool. So tell them quickly how to get the teens on this call because it's so cool what you're doing, and then ask your question.
It's actually Your Safe Place on Facebook. It is presented by Breaking the Cycles. That is a recovery group that we have, and we have Zoom meetings as well 4 times a week. But um, yeah, I will post the links and everything in the chat for that, and I do appreciate that so much. It's just there is so much trauma that we all have to go through, and finding out about the indigenous traumas, oh my goodness, that's a whole crazy thing. But yeah, um, and yeah, just the transformation in my daughter is amazing. She's so shy and everything, and then now she's coming out. But so I will go ahead with my question then. Um, so I've worked a lot on trying to have this like Kundalini rising. I've done some of the yoga. I do breath work every day. And I have other gifts and things that are, but with being able to see or hear, the other energies around, like people talk about needing protection. I'm just over here like, please, I would like to hear something, anything, ever, you know. So I've gotten the message a lot that it's for my own protection. Like, so is that something you've experienced? Like, you know, because people I've seen are like, yes, I worked on having this Kundalini awakening. I did this yoga, I did this, etc. And it worked for me. But I haven't found that. So I was just wondering if you've come across that much or if you had any thoughts.
Um, I've heard a lot just from what I've read online about it not being a positive thing, and people have various perceptions and perspectives with it. But I didn't have anything, I didn't experience anything like that. Um, I don't know that I can really comment any further on that because I haven't had those experiences that I've read about. And some people say, oh, it's just evil, and it's really not. It's a spiritual awakening. And there's, plenty of evidence backing up everything that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about. And so I don't have any personal experience with that.
Well,
I
no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, is like I am totally like I believe that everything is possible and like I'm just, kind of curious why I haven't experienced it when I've been open to it. Like I had too much of an attachment to it. I got too excited for a while with the things, and then, um, a lot of people that we're affiliated with here like have contact with ETs and with spirits, and I'm totally open to that. And it's just like I don't hear anything, I don't feel anything. I do meditate a lot, but it is difficult for me, or has been difficult, to really get to that awareness space, that void space. So, I was just wondering if that's something you hear a lot of people say, is they have difficulty getting there, or it seems pretty simple. Like you were like, nope, I kind of got there. Um,
I haven't heard anybody say that they've had difficulties with it. I've just heard various stories of people's experiences. Um, I mean, are you attached to the outcome? That's like my
I
only.
was for a long time. I've been working on letting that go for a while now, just being open to the experience and the process, like you said.
I think that's been the hardest thing in many different realms, but I kind of feel like I want to say just let go and let it come to you. Because
Wow.
anytime that I've ever tried to bring anything in, even if I was like, nope, I'm not thinking about it, I was actually thinking about it.
Right. For
Yeah,
sure. All right. Thank you so much.
Lori, I would add that his white light protection
Hmm.
is the experience of that aura, of that white light being in your aura. It's fabulous. And so maybe just start with the anticipation that you're going to go ahead and do your shield of holy light. And then when that voice comes through, you'll know that it's that pure and divine contact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I've had like Arcturians. I know it was Arcturians have connected with me like 3 times,
Okay.
and then all of a sudden nothing at all again after that. So I thought that was really weird. Um, and I get other, like I'm very good at subtle energies, and like Zinka, in the different labs, like I'm a really good sender. Like my energy is very strong. I'm very protected. I know I'm very protected. Like I don't worry about anything messing with me. I don't have fear about that. I've seen so much in my life already where I should have been dead. I should have been maimed. I'm not. I'm here, and it's been amazingly blessed with that. So that's why it's got to be some kind of subconscious fear. But okay, I don't want to hog your
Yeah,
time.
and
So
also like you do not technically know what's best for you because sometimes you think you know
all
what's
right,
best for you when actually what's happening is probably what's best for you. And you get to ask how to do this because the answers are within you. So you get
okay,
to ask in the meditation, give me one thing that I get to do to bring this reality closer to me. And yeah. And the first thing is dropping, oh, there's something wrong with me, or oh, this is, you know what I mean? Because there's not, and you're amazing and you're a super powerful healer and you're doing all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, you kind of get curious. Like, I wonder when this is going to happen for me. And in the meantime, what is the first step? And then what is the second step? Because you're connected to all your guides, your higher self, and everything. And the answer is right there within you if you ask and listen. And it might be unique because what Philip did might not even work for you. So that's what is cool about asking yourself. So, so yeah. Does anybody else? Oh, Kel has a question. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah,
Hey,
I was. Hi. This has been awesome. I was going to ask, is it is it about being a vibrational or energetic match to or frequency, on the same energetic or vibrational frequency to see things at higher levels? Is that what that is? Like why we just can't, like I have similar issues to Lori. Like sometimes I'm hyper connected and then other times it's dead, you know.
That's an excellent question. I think there's a lot that goes with that. I wish that I could elaborate further on this. I can only speak from the lens of my own experience, but just to give you an example, when I'm getting a download, I am very grounded, I'm very connected. I don't have a lot of caffeine. My diet is clean, and those are the times that I'm in alignment with those certain things. But if I have a bad day, if I'm upset about something, I am completely closed off to that. So there is a lot to be said for what you're saying. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And anytime I can, to add to both of what you're asking, anytime that I've tried to figure it out, I've never gotten it. Anytime that's anything in my life has come forward, I was not attached to it. I wasn't even thinking about it. It just happened. Like I'm looking at that picture of when I called the election. I wasn't planning on that. I'm looking at this picture like, all right, there's something here. Give me something. And then boom, I saw his face. Like I wasn't planning on this. I wasn't trying. It just happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so and I think sometimes that can happen easily, that non-attachment to the results is in knowing that we can all trust that the world is happy. When I had my near-death experience, I had this knowledge that everything was happening for my benefit in my whole life. They were like, you thought that like this person was blocking you and that person wasn't allowing it and this person was in your way and this person was trying to take you down. You're like, no. They were like, everything was done for your benefit in love. And so once you step back there, and then you add the part like, I'm not even sure what's going to be best because I can't really see from that all those perspectives. Then you really do get curious and you're like, well, um, I thought I wanted this. Let's see what happens. It's like, hmm. And
Right.
so dropping it because, right, you're not, yeah,
Allowing the flow.
talk about that a little bit.
It's if you're attached to it, even on a little bit of a subconscious level, you're not allowing the universe to do its work. That's what I've noticed. I mean, here's a good example. How many people have ever said, "All right, I'm going out tonight. I'm all dressed up. I'm going to meet my future wife tonight." It doesn't happen. That never happens. Whenever you say, "Oh, how did you two meet?" "Oh, I didn't even want to go out that night," or I was getting bread or something. It's a serendipitous event that you're not planning. The same could be said for anything that you're manifesting. So even if you're open to it, but you're kind of trying, even on a subconscious level, you might be blocking it a little bit. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, because it's not pure anymore.
Well,
If you're worrying about it, like, oh, I'm going to meet my wife tonight. And if I don't, or where is she, or what's happening, and how is this working, then you're right. There's doubt in your mind because you're wondering, like, why, I don't know. You're just like,
Post
you're
state of proceed.
introducing some doubt.
Right.
yeah, it was some of the research that we've looked at indicated that when you wish, well, I'll use the word wish for manifestation. When you wish for something yourself, you have like a 60% chance of it happening. But if somebody else wishes it for you, it goes up. And it can go up significantly. And we got really curious about that. What's going on? And a friend of ours speculates, and this is the theory I'm on right now. Is that when I wish for you, I don't carry any of the subconscious baggage that might be preventing it. As you were mentioning, like if you're really attached to that outcome, it doesn't seem to happen. But if you say to me, Adam, I'm going to go out tonight, and I think, oh, he's going to meet her tonight, the chances go way up. If you're not thinking about it, but I'm thinking about it for you, and it seems that that unconscious bias is missing when
Right.
somebody else does that
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because you don't have any baggage. Yeah.
about what you want. Or
About
you want.
whatever it is
Yeah.
that you're looking to do. Right.
Right. And
You don't
here,
have the exhaustion, the frustration, the like anything. as a
And
friend from the outside.
just take the aligned action and just continue to move forward, because you're never going to see the how or the when. I mean, can you think of any story when you're interviewing somebody and they're like, oh yeah, no, I knew this was coming at this exact time, and I knew that it was coming in this way.
Interesting.
Well, you
You're
can
right. It doesn't happen.
you can advance to that, actually. For you
Yeah.
new awakened people, yeah, you can advance to that. I guarantee that.
What, like where you see the future and then you go live it?
No, where you just know. You're like, okay, this is about to happen, and that's about to happen, and these good things are coming. I mean, Rockstar Parking didn't work because I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, so why don't you tell that a little bit for people that are joining us for the first time
Right.
and haven't
So-
heard about our
So we
experiment?
do these gentle manifestation experiments, and one of them was called Rockstar Parking. And in order to qualify, you had to be right in front of the door, right next to the door, like VIP, right? So we did it for 3.5 months, and I had a 96% success rate.
Wow.
And some of them were really cool, like a convention, hundreds of people drove straight to the front and just parked.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I attribute it to his rock solid belief. And it's like he would just drive up. So doubt is a very complicated thing, because you're introducing variables. And if you're trying to be a Jedi, which you are, I am, we're all Jedis on this call, right? If you're trying to bend reality, or if you're a Jedi, um, you're looking to sculpt reality in fun and cool ways. And so you're going against probability, right? You're saying, I want to be an artist and I want my stuff on Times Square. That's a pretty bold like manifestation, right? And because that's what Jedis do, right? And so that's difficult, right? There's a ton of artists in the world. There's all these people wanting to be artists. So the probability is low for that manifestation. And that's why we cannot add any doubt into that, right? It's just a question of when it's going to happen, right? And that's what they teach you in this whole thing. So it's really interesting when we start to experiment, because one of the reasons why the Rockstar Parking works is because it's absolutely insignificant. If it doesn't work, you just park a little bit over and you go into the store and you walk a little bit. But now when we do things that we care more about, like healing someone, for example, the tension can be a little bit higher. But we recommend manifesting things that don't matter at first to start to realize that you are creating your reality. You are creating your reality. And it's there to sculpt. And we are at an age where we're going to be creating a renaissance. And it's up to us to create things that have never been before. A lot of the stuff in the world is outdated. And we have got to see this new world and create it when people are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Right? We are creating something unknown into reality. And so it takes a strong mind like Philip has, to pursue this kind of stuff and to make it real.
And how did your art come to be on the Times Square illuminators?
5 years of we're not really looking for that, or we regret to inform you at this time. I know from everything, I never gave up. My first big break was with NFT NYC last year. I submitted 3 artworks, and I got accepted there. And that's people from all over the world, all walks of life. And that was the first thing I had essentially on my artist resume. Once I got in there, doors started opening up. You apply to open calls. Art galleries host these open calls. You apply, they judge your portfolio. If they like what they see, then you get in. That's essentially how it works. So I met some people that are part of a DAO. DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. It's a conglomerate of artists. And I made some friends there. I started joining other organizations, Hug XYZ. My TikTok account is up to, I have like 65,000 followers there. My entire story has been documented there from day one. So I've always had the artwork there on my website. And like I said, NFT NYC really opened up things for me. And then I found out about Art Innovation. I applied there, and they're the ones that do the billboards, various places, New York City, Hong Kong. I had one that went up in during Art Basel Miami, Art Basel Hong Kong. I wasn't actually in Art Basel, but it was on the billboards there during the time, because the application fee for Art Basel is $27,000. So it's really out there. But I was really blown away by everything that came through with the QHHT session. And that video is actually pinned on my TikTok profile when I said that it was going to come in. And then I got the email 4 months later, and then it went up. So October 19th, 2024 was when the audio recording was. And then February 20th was when it went up in Times Square for the first time. And then all this week. So I'm floored. There's this, I feel like this is way bigger than my art ever was, this whole thing. So really, truly thank you for having me here. This is a real honor.
It's an honor for us too,
Yeah.
Philip, because you embody everything that we are excited to bring the world to, which is this idea that consciousness is in our body and we have bodies and we can do this. You don't need $1 million to start experimenting with your consciousness. And it is like having $1 million, like you said. I mean, it's like, this is the most unbelievable, it's like Christmas every day. It's like, I can't believe I'm living this life. It's so interesting and so wow. So you inspiring other people to watch a YouTube and try it and is just amazing. And I also just love your tenacity. And I want you to talk a little bit more about your skin. How did it feel to apply over and over again to get your artwork shown? And the thank you very much, we're not interested. Like, how do you get through that stuff? Because that can be hard.
Yes, it's very difficult, but I just knew. Anything I've ever done in my life, I've been met with ridicule and resistance every step of the way. People said I was too dumb to go to college. I've got a degree in nuclear medicine. I lost the weight. I did all these things. I just kept going. I didn't let anybody's opinion stop me. And I saw it as an opportunity. Now, I'm not going to be a self-proclaimed guru and claim that nothing has ever fazed me. You're allowed to get down a little bit, but you got to get back up. And I would encourage anyone to fail consistently. You need to fail because there's lessons in that. And that's where a lot of resilience comes from. And if I were to lay out from A to Z everything that you absolutely needed to do, it's the same thing like if you're raising a child, and like the stove thing, like, hey, don't touch that, that's hot, but they're not going to get it until they touch the stove. So that's why I encourage everybody to fail, because you need to learn the lessons, you need to put in the time, just keep going. And the same thing with the naysayers, not your vibe, not your tribe, you go in another direction. As long as you keep going and making progressive steps forward, the universe has no choice but to give you what you're working for. And if you're not getting something in this direction, it's not that you failed, it's that you're supposed to be over here. So just keep going. And I know everybody always says, trust the process. I have my bad days. I have days where I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. Like I said before with the weight loss, like when you are on your last day and I just can't do this anymore. That's the day somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you look fantastic. And everything gets reignited. And it's no different with the weight loss than with the artwork than with anything else. So just please never give up, because someday, I can't tell you when, I can't tell you how, but something is going to click.
Definitely. So cool, Philip. I feel like you have a higher self that is a total Jedi like master. I was just like, that's why he can do Kundalini like that over and over and over again. So I feel like you are someone that has lived extraordinary lives, many, many lives, extraordinary lives, and that you're a true teacher, a true leader. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. We wish you so much happiness and joy as your career continues to take off. And we invite everyone to like and share this video. We also invite everyone to join the LightNet collaborator members at our lightnet.org/join. We are a community of people that do impossible things, and we do this through love and encouragement and sticking with it and looking at it and reframing it. We have coaching tomorrow. We have coaching twice a month where we support each other, and we just try to look at things in a new way so that we can have these breakthroughs and live incredible lives. So,
Philip, thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. This was truly an honor.
thank you, everyone. We'll see you next month on the Unlimited Show.